Morning to the Unstuck podcast. Once again, we're in the car. I have a feeling this might be where we are a lot. Well, Heather, we were working out today, and kind of like in a breathless moment after one of your sets on our little home gym thing. You said you had an idea for this podcast today, so I'm excited to hear what you have in mind.
So while tons and tons of healing has happened, like I still process through feelings and things and insecurities and all of those things. It's not like we had our amazing talk and everything's fixed and honky-dory like all at once. What ends up happening is like your highs get a lot better and you're happier. And then when there are lows, I think they feel even lower because you've had such change and good things going on. And then sometimes it feels really defeating, like, well, I've done so much work, why do I feel so sad or upset right now? So I don't know that the lows are actually lower. I think they feel lower because...
Well, there's an awareness, I think, too. You have an awareness of what's maybe bothering you or what thing you need to get over, what thought process you keep getting stuck in.
Yeah.
And it can be just frustrating.
Yeah.
When you're there again.
Well, and I've read about this too, that like you're actually doing better than you think you are, even though you might still be experiencing,
right,
hard moments. She still doesn't disqualify the work you have done, the healing you have made. But, and the way I like to think of it is I'm just peeling back layers. And so every time something does come back up or is more difficult, it's just showing me that there's still a remnant there that needs to be healed and pulled out and changed, inside of me so that it can go away permanently. But anyway, so Cameron's been super vulnerable with his struggles and the things that he's gone through, and so I was thinking a lot about like my own today and in the face of insecurity that I was feeling, and I was kind of digging through my roots of where it started and where these things come from. So I guess I'll start with like the overall emotion that I was experiencing this morning was like, I'll never be picked. I will not be picked. I'm not the type of girl that gets picked. And I don't know, like it was one moment, one trigger this morning, but it was like on our workout machine, we have a tonal, and it's their led exercises, right, by these instructors, and some of them are very strong, fit, incredible bodied women, and it's not that I was sitting there like stressed that he was seeing that, but it was just like this reminder, like, you'll never be like that. That's what's most desirable, and you'll never be that way. So I have this like consistent thing in the back of my head that says, like, you don't compare. You'll never be that way. And I was thinking about it, like, so we all have those memories, right? Like I have a memory of, being in the, back in like grade school when you've got the team captains and they're picking the teams and like you're always picked last, or very, close to the last. There's only the kid that's like maybe dealing with like that doesn't run, or you know what I mean, or has a disability, gets picked, maybe last before you. So I was never picked first. I was never desired to be picked first as a kid. With my friends, I was thinking about this because I grew up in California, and I'd go to Disneyland with friends, and we'd go around the park. Like parents would take us and we'd take off and do our own thing. And my friends would always be looking for boys to hang out with, and I was never interested in it. And I don't think it was necessarily because I wasn't interested in boys. It was like, well, I won't be chosen. You know what I mean? So it's just like turned it off. And then it got me thinking, like, well, how much of that really was then my own making, that I wasn't chosen because I, like, closed that door because I wasn't the type of person. So, and we've talked about this before, like, it kind of, we played perfectly into these roles that we created for each other when we got married. So Cameron, needed to be seen as somebody who did not objectify women, right? For lack of a better word, let's just call it what it is.
Sure.
So, and then in my mind, like, sexualized women were a big thing for you, right? Like, in my mind, I thought that, that's not what you wanted, because that's actually what you put out there, because you didn't want to be seen that way so badly. And in my mind, I'm never chosen. I'm not that way. I will never be seen that way. And so, like, it worked, right? You and me worked because you didn't look for women like that, and I wasn't a woman like that. And so all of a sudden, when I found out about his pornography pattern, and I realized that just wasn't true, that you were like the other boys. You were like the other men who found, women with bodies who were perfect to be attractive and desirable and would seek after that. Now all of a sudden I'm just back. It's like, it feels like I'm just back in school again, not going to be picked. And you have to pick me because you've been, you got 5 kids now. And anyway, so it's, and it's the wrong thing to leave me for someone better. So all those feelings just, like, came up for me again this morning. And, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Because I have a feeling like others who are going through healing journey with a spouse who has watched pornography, this is not an uncommon feeling or insecurity. Or even if you don't have a spouse that's done that, you might feel this way about yourself too. Just written yourself off, and you can't compare, and you're constantly ranking yourself or putting yourself down and feeling like you're not enough. And then to complicate it all, like, there's this part of me that gets a little frustrated, and it's like you're the one saying it right in my head, and so I'll retaliate by saying, well, I had your babies. It's like my body went through hell to give you kids, and you still want this, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm pitting you as a bad guy, and you haven't even been part of the conversation in my head. And to the contrary, have assured me and told me that even through all of this, you still found me attractive and you still desired me.
I didn't just tell you.
And tried to show me, and because of my...
Have shown you.
Well, but I would often stop you.
Right.
That's what I meant.
But I'm just saying, like, I think we'll go into this more in a minute. We talked about this the other day. There's a lot of cognitive mismatch to the thing we're hung up on, and we constantly hold on to the evidence of, and the reality of what evidence we're getting, we're actually receiving. And
you look for you find what you look for.
Correct. So if there's something you've hung up on, especially as a child, an old pattern, an old idea, an old thought of how you are and who you think you are, any evidence that shows up at all becomes way brighter and more bigger and more.
It's got the spotlight on.
And you hold on to it. Then all the other evidence that's contrary, you might say, oh, that's nice, but then it kind of passes by. But for the other evidence, the negative evidence, it gets a lot more purchase.
Yeah. Well, and I can count. Like, I mean, I know it's not like I don't have memories. It's just those are the ones that stick out. So, some things that are interesting, and this is part of, like, when you become aware Like, I am fully aware in the middle of these feelings, they're real to me, but I'm fully aware that they're my problem and I'm not seeing clearly. And so because I know that, it's frustrating because it's like, well, I feel this way, but yet I know I don't have to feel this way because it's not necessarily actually true, but yet it feels so real. And so there's kind of some added pain when you're conscious about these type of unconscious beliefs and feelings. When you become conscious, it's like, because before you could just like grovel in it, right? Like, oh, poor me. And then you get some soothing out of it because, you know, look, I'm the victim. I'm the one, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. And, you know, it's somehow that's like self-soothing. Even though it's painful, this is like almost slightly worse. But the key is, like, the thing that actually isn't worse in reality is that you can do something about it. Because you understand. So, like, what's interesting is this problem.
Puts you in a position of power.
Yeah.
When you know.
Well, and this problem that I'm experiencing right now, even though he's involved in my concerns and fears and all of those things, like, it's not his problem. Like, he didn't do anything. Well, he didn't do anything to contribute to me feeling this way, because if I was secure and knew my value inside fully, like you watching porn, I would know that was about you, and it wouldn't affect me. I might be sad and for you, and because that's a struggle for you, and sad that our relationship, you know, is in that struggle, but I wouldn't be like taking it so personally. So it's my problem. And just like his pornography use was his problem and not mine. But the cool thing is about marriage is that we get to work together as we face these problems and help each other out. So yeah, I just wanted to share. I think I just felt this morning, oftentimes with podcasts and media that's put out there, you have these people who, oh, I got it all figured out, and look at me. It's like maybe a fitness thing, right? Where it's like the person who's already fit and ripped and healthy and amazing, and you're sitting there like with 50 pounds to lose or more. And
there's a reason. I mean, we like glomming onto and finding people who are the experts to be our mentors. And I actually think that's not a bad thing. You're right. It can be. There's a false idea that everything is like, everything that they're doing and everything that they have is just totally.
But what makes them those fit ones, the mentors that are the world, it was when they show you where they came from. They show you their vulnerability. They don't just show up and be like, look, I got it all figured out. So can you. I've always been this way. It's not that hard, right? That is not motivating. And so I just was feeling this morning as I was going through this emotion and dealing with the frustration that it's still here. I've worked on this. Why am I still feeling this way? And just going, you know, like, this might be a really helpful thing for people to see, that even though I fully appreciate like where we're at, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow, I still have moments where I'm just feeling like, how on earth. It's like a little kid, like that girl again, just in grade school or high school or whatever. Like, look at all these pretty girls. It's just so interesting processing through those feelings that really like have been around for so long. Like, I see like little images from my past where I think I just shut out. Like, I shut off every opportunity because I wasn't going to be picked. I wasn't. And the fascinating thing is, like, and this is what's so fascinating, that we played in and like we ended up together. And because I believe God, like, I know God led us together. So I know that we are the perfect antidote to our stupid limiting beliefs that we've had for forever. But I always was like very insecure. I'm tall. I'm almost 6 feet. I'm just shy of 6 feet tall. And I always knew that petite, cute girls were way prettier and way more desirable than me. And I'm not that. So it's just like this one big fat piece of evidence that, hey, you know, even though you've been married, and even though, you know, like, he does love you, it's almost like he's sacrificing to love me, right? He's sacrificing to to love me because what he really wants is that, and I can't be it. Like, I can work out, I can get thin, I can restore the loose skin with surgery on my body if I want to, but I will never be able to change my stature, my bone structure. Like, I can't cut 6 inches off my body. And so it's like this perpetual, I'll never win, right? Anyway, we've talked about this before. I know this isn't new to you. Like, we've had this conversation, but it's just like sometimes these feelings come in so strong all over again. But I thought it would be, helpful for everyone to hear how you handle it with me when we talk about it, and what your thoughts are about it. Because if it's easy, it's hard for me to take. It's funny. It's hard for me to take your, like, to trust or believe you sometimes when you say it, right? Because I know you don't want to hurt me. I know you love me. Like, our friendship and the fact that you love me and care for me has never been something that I question. It's more desirability, right? So I can imagine that if someone else were in my shoes and feeling that about their husband, to listen to somebody else say the things that you say to me might be helpful.
Sure.
And validating to things that maybe their own husbands have said to them, like, hey, this actually isn't just me, you know?
Well, what I was thinking of as you're talking is we've talked a lot about, there might be a better psychological evaluation of what it is, but I've always, as we've gone through this healing, and it feels clear to me as we talked about it, there are parts of us that as we're developing, it's almost like there's a hitch in the development somewhere, and then there's a piece of us that stays there or doesn't move very fast from there, while other parts of us move ahead. So while you might learn a trade or the ability to do some sort of skill, with emotional skills you've learned too, and some of them are stuck. And they tend to be back when you were a child where you made them. And so that feels like it's my child. I believe that the desire to have that, which is in me, is a childhood. It's a childish thing. It's an underdeveloped feeling. And I believe your desire to want to be that is also that underdeveloped feeling. And so what helps me is when I realize we're talking about children.
Well, and not to criticize women who fall into that category, because it's not like that just because they are petite, beautiful, girls, doesn't mean that they're
right.
Yeah, that you're childish if you find one attractive, or you're married to one and you love that
Correct.
person. So,
Correct. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
It's not that. But I do believe...
But the thinking you have to have it to be happy.
Well, and I believe that it could be something that helped you in the beginning relationship, but there always has to be a transition later to something more than that. There always has to be transition to something that you physically still desire the person, but it's because of who they are and less of what they look like. To the point that really it shouldn't be what they look like at all, to be honest. So in my feeling, the quicker you can actually make that jump emotionally, you're probably better off anyways. But it's not a sacrifice. It's simply the way you need to be. I think those feelings are underdeveloped feelings, because a developed feeling would be you're just past that, like age, beauty. They might have advantages, and they might even help support feelings, but they can't be what you are. They're just things that you have. And so some people have physical deformities and things like that, and so they're still no less valuable as a person. They might have a little bit of a disadvantage that if somebody's very beautiful, like just naturally, they probably have an advantage that would support them in maybe receiving affection and things like that. But if they chase that, if that becomes how they're defined, and you can see it doesn't produce happiness. It's something that they're chasing until they'll eventually get older, and now they're still chasing it, and then it's like it's a lot of unhappiness on the back end. They may be with somebody who was with them for that reason, and now they don't want to be because that was the reason. The childish man who married that beautiful model,
because of the status,
correct.
Because of
and she wanted it for that. They both
feel.
thought that was the reason. Well, I don't think there was any illusion, right? Like she probably realized my beauty, got me this attention.
I don't know how conscious it always is.
I don't think it is conscious. It's very much as something that can be subconscious. Sometimes it's conscious, but if that's how they did it, then eventually it will just lead to that man leaving her. And maybe, and listen, I'm sure there's not even an insignificant number of them maybe do make that jump and or with that person because they just genuinely love them for who they are. And those looks could have maybe gotten them there in the beginning, but eventually it has to happen. So that's what I'm trying to say with I am demonstrated, and I genuinely find you extremely attractive. And I constantly show that to you. I also do have this childish part of me that sees the other things and says that, hey, those are really nice too. And I'm learning to develop that part of me.
So
in ways that are more
maybe there's some good
beneficial.
Dive into our story of like how we met. Well, we filmed it, but we haven't, like, I think we cut that part out. But anyway, so we met at school in Virginia, and
I was not going to school.
Cameron, well, yeah, you were taking a break from school and working, and anyway, I moved out there and made a friend who was roommates with a girl who really liked Cameron, and so as a result, like, he was invited to a lot of stuff that we did, so we started hanging out. And I guess here's the thing too, like, I can't really, it's not like I can fault you for the very thing that I did. I was not attracted to, it wasn't like I looked at you and like, oh, I want, like, at first glance, I was like, I want to be with you that way. Like, I didn't think much of it. In fact, like, you kind of reminded me of a guy that I kind of dated. I actually didn't know we dated until after we were married. We were having a conversation and he said we dated. But I was kind of like I was not interested in that person anymore. And so I, like, you kind of had some traits that reminded me a little bit of him. And I was like, I actually kind of remember feeling I'm not interested. And then, well, I mean, so I tell the whole story. So briefly, I ended up, having a spiritual experience like a few months after I moved there, where I felt like Cameron, I mean, like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I felt like he might actually be the person I was supposed to marry. And we were just early friends. And I wasn't even thinking of him that way. It was more of a spiritual prompting from God. And then that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And you weren't thinking of me that way at all. Like, and hadn't had anything like that happen. But we got to be really, like, very good friends, best friends. We hung out, did everything together. People all the time asked if we were dating, and we weren't. But anyway, eventually, you also had a spiritual experience sitting next to me at church. Like, you were praying, asking God who you're going to marry. And got that feeling like that I was right next to you. And so like, and then what was it, a month, like just a little over a month later, we talked, and we got engaged like that night because we both had that separate confirmation.
We were best friends,
and we were best friends. It was like dating felt stupid. Like, you date to get to know somebody, and we knew each other better than most people do when they get engaged. But in hindsight too, like, the whole dating and romance part, like, we were stunted on because we moved right, like, we got engaged and 2 months later we're married. And we did not know how to foster that, and we're learning now how important that is, like, 20 years in. So
Now, we also, looking back, realized that it might have actually been, I think it was, it did happen the right way. Because of your proclivity to kind of feel like you'd never be picked, you kind of pushed people away.
Well,
it's likely you would have pushed me away had I shown interest and we had a protracted.
And because you weren't interested, and you also were on guard, and like you were dealing with, your parents had just been divorced. You had a lot of emotional stuff going on, and so he really was kind of pulled back physically. The way he projected himself, because he was hiding pornography thing, like that was rampant because you were in a depressive state back then.
Yes.
Because he was hiding that, and not interested in more than friendship with me. Like we weren't ever snuggly friends. And so I just you were like a great guy and a spiritual guy and my best friend. And I'm like, well, people don't like, I'm not desirable sexually. Right. So this will work. And now I have discovered this as I've dived in. This is not anything that was conscious back then, because I wanted a romantic relationship with you. I wanted to feel desired, but I realized that I had decided I wasn't. And so you were safe. And actually, if we had dated, I probably would have pushed him away, because I wouldn't have felt that way. And because everything was such a whirlwind and we got married so fast, it kind of saved our relationship, but also created another problem. But getting back to where I was,
perfect mess.
Yeah, getting back to where I was, at the point I was trying to make is that the little girl in me, you're talking about children, just wants to be that girl that like you saw from across the room and we're like, I have to have her, and that's what I wanted. And that's the best kind of attraction. That's the best kind of love. Those are the happiest people, right? Like, because that's what you see in movies. That's what I perceived my friends all got, right? Because they were pursued and I never was. But like, maybe I was never pursued because I said I wasn't that, and I put that off. Like I projected that like crazy. I'm quite sure I wasn't interested. In fact, like when I didn't care, we were talking about this the other day. When I was not like in having this like emotional vortex of like, please love me, somebody love me, right? And I was like, kind of said, no, I'm not even interested. That's when I moved to LA was that, because I knew that anybody that I found there, because I worked on a few films and stuff, and I knew that industry was like ripe with lots of stuff that I did not want in my life. I just wanted the experience, because I love film and whatnot. And so I was like not looking. I was not an emotional vortex of I need somebody to love me, right? And that's where I had like the most, I was pursued the most in my entire life, because I was like not desperately wanting somebody to, and I think we put out energy of like, please love me, that neediness of I need you to fix me. And I'm pretty sure I did that a lot, and probably really affected my results and just gave me more evidence of the reality that I told myself was true.
Tends to be kind of like a feedback loop once you feel a certain way.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that bringing this up today and sharing a little bit more of our story and helping people see, because talking it out like helps. So I'm like, we'll just talk it out on camera today, instead of doing it during our workout, and show people like what we talk about and how we approach it. It might be helpful. But we, being aware that we are really biased in how we choose to look at things, especially with ourselves, and we are our own worst enemies, and understanding too, like the havoc that our inner children wreak on our lives. Like if we don't recognize it and like look at it and say, okay, this is my kid. This is my little kid saying, you're not going to be ever as beautiful or as as thin or as fit as that girl in those stupid tight yoga pants and her bra
It will be
on the
something
screen.
irrational. It will be an irrational thing.
And then all of a sudden, like, now she's competition for my husband, which is stupid.
Yeah. I think the key thing is that we're all struggling with part of us that has been stuck. We wanted to do this podcast because it wasn't just about overcoming pornography. It wasn't about becoming someone. It was about becoming the people that we're supposed to be. It's becoming unstuck from those childish feelings, those feelings where we are stuck. We don't have to be stuck, and wherever you are, we're feeling stuck. Wherever you're feeling those pain points, it'll be, you know what they are. It'll be the thing that you think is impossible to change.
Yeah. All right. Till next time. Thanks for joining us.